So when we look at June 2023, weighted two, let's look at the data response. The first one talks about Pakistan and the Belt of Road and the Belt and Roads Initiative. So BRI is a strategy initiated by China in 2013 that seeks to connect Asia with Africa and Europe via land and sea networks. Its aim is to improve regional integration, increase trade, and stimulate economic growth. It involves major investment in infrastructure projects. Under the BRI, China is looking to is looking for markets with growth potential for their exports, in particular openings for profitable infrastructure and industrial investment. Profits in China are falling, and overcapacity is widespread. So the idea goes this that China is looking for markets for investment, for growth, and China has overcapacity, and now they're looking for newer markets. Better direct transport link will encourage growth for China's inland provinces. For example, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, we know that CPEC. This is a 50 billion road building scheme linking the inland province in western China to a newly developed Pakistani port on the Arabian Sea, which is Gwadar. The development offers a shorter, cheaper route for China's exports to Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Additionally, the port development includes plans for investment in Pakistan's railway and industrial zone. Other projects are focused on energy supply, including coal-fired and nuclear-powered electricity generation and the development of Pakistan's electricity grid. Pakistan economy is affected by power cuts, which lead to many firms having their own inefficient diesel generators that increase the cost of production. The generators are also highly polluting. A more reliable electric supply will also benefit households as cooking can be done without using unhealthy solid fuels such as straw, and students can study for longer in the evening. So clearly, you can see Pakistan is going through all these troubles. This is June 2023. Variant is R142. Okay, the construction machinery used for these infrastructure project is supplied mainly by China, and the project is supervised by Chinese managers. To pay for these projects, Pakistan takes loans provided by Chinese banks and institutions. So basically, Pakistan is using their goods, their things, and as a result, Pakistan is also accumulating debt from China. To pay for these projects, China Pakistan takes loans provided by Chinese banks and institutions. Pakistan already has outstanding foreign debt of approximately 25% of the GDP. And they give you this information. I'm going to skip that right now. I'm going to come to the questions and then go back to the information. So explain what is meant by purchasing power parity. Guys, purchasing power parity is a concept that we covered in class. So basically in this purchasing power parity, what we do is that it is when you look at your exchange rate, your nominal exchange rate, it could sometimes be not basically accurate because it can change due to market forces and demand supply and may not be a true indicator of your cost of living. So what we do is that we sometimes create what we call purchasing power parity rate, which is a rate that looks at purchasing power of different countries. And the way we do that is that we find a basket of goods and we compare that basket or bundle of goods and services with another bundle of goods and services in the local currency. So, for example, let's say I make a basket of 20 or 30 goods. Let's say, simple example, let's say this is my basket, and let's say I say this basket has these various articles, and let's say this is for rupees 100. Okay, and let's say if this same basket in the US cost me, for example, $1, then I'll say that although the nominal exchange rate is rupees 280 is equal to $1, but the exchange rate, which is the purchasing power parity rate, which looks at the cost of living, is one which is rupees US $1 is equal to rupees 100. Okay, so we'll use this rather than the nominal exchange rate when we're looking at, for example, GDP per capita and other measures. Do we get that? Are we good? Any questions about this? I would move on. I don't think there's any questions. So, okay. B says, explain with the help of diagram the likely impact of the BRI on both the potential economic growth and actual economic growth of Pakistan. So, this is easy, guys, because when you look at the likely impact of BRI, remember, is our uh, Pakistan and the Belt and Roads Initiative, the China's basically CPAC. This is going to basically result in a couple of things to happen. The actual economic growth, remember, guys, is when you are, if this is my PPC, okay, if this is our PPC, the actual economic growth will take us towards the PPC. Make sense? While the potential economic growth will basically result in the PPC to shift back to the right. Got it? So the idea goes this that when you're looking at uh, potential economic growth, that will happen because there is a rise in basically your quantity and quality of factors of production, while actual economic growth happens when there is a higher output, like AD goes up. Okay, so the likely impact of BRI will be both potential and actual to happen. Actual economic growth will happen because there will be more utilization of existing resources. So we will go from A to B. And the potential economic growth will happen because there is investment happening. Therefore, there is a rise in the productive potential of the economy. Make sense, guys? So you need to sort of either show it in two diagrams or show it in the same diagram. C says consider with reference to table 1.1 the change in the standard of living in Pakistan and China between 2014 and 2018. Okay. Any question before we move on? बच्चों कोई सवाल before we move on? सब सही है? Is it easy? Is it fine? Sorry, somebody's asking me a question. Okay, awesome. So, guys, uh, when we look at table 1.1, uh, the question is asking us consider with reference to our table 1.1 the change in the standard of living in Pakistan and China between 2014 and 2018. And we're looking at basically standard of living. Now, remember, guys, standard of living is not only GDP per capita, it is GDP per capita along with many other things. And that's why this is a 6 mark question, because when you look at standard of living may mean not only your GDP per capita, but other things. For example, your HDI suggests, your education level, your health indicators, and even, for example, your GDP per capita purchasing power parity adjusted. Okay. Now, so we would say standard of living may include not only your GDP per capita, but also much more from education, healthcare, and other indicators of life, like quality of life. For example, HDI doesn't calculate that, but basically other factors could also be considered, like quality of life, pollution, and so on, security, and all that. So you can then talk about the idea that your standard of living may include both your economic and basically non-economic factors. But if you look at GDP per capita simply, for China, it has risen from 11,900 to 15,000. If I look at the percentage change, it's 15 minus 11. Let me just quickly calculate that. Just a minute, guys. 15 minus 11. divided by 11 is 36%. I mean, I'm finding out it's actually 15 minus 12. 15 minus 12 divided by 12, it's like 25%. This has gone up by 25% for China. For Pakistan, it's only gone up by 4740 minus 4171, which is so sad, by the way. It's gone up by 13%, okay, or roughly 14%. So that's one thing. When you look at unemployment rate, that's also an indicator. Unemployment has gone down for example, China, but has uh, actually gone down for Pakistan as well. So unemployment rate has gone down. Uh, when you look at Gini coefficient tell us the distribution of income, uh, which has gone down for China, which means income has become much more fairer, but gone up for Pakistan, which means income has become much more unfairer. So you can say this that Gini coefficient means that the increase in income has become more even in China, but less even in Pakistan. While if you look at GDP per capita, it's increasing by 25% for China, but not so for Pakistan. It's only increasing by 13%. Uh, you can also indicate that the unemployment rate is going down for both countries, suggesting improvement in, for example, standard of living. But in order to make a good assessment, we may need to know the education level of the countries, the health indicators, the quality of life, pollution, and other factors for us to make a good judgment. Does that make sense? So this is a question which actually allows us to first mention what we can assess from the information and then mention what you need to know more in order to do a good answer. Make sense, guys? Any question? Are we good? Okay. Lastly, I'm going to take that as a yes and I'm going to move on. Lastly, guys, they say evaluate using the article the likely impact of the BRI of the economies of Pakistan and China in the long run. So this is again an evaluation question. So we need to first of all give your pros and cons, and honestly speaking, three pros, three cons, plus your sort of conclusion. So if you, for example, like quickly, if we go through some of the advantages and disadvantages, and I'm going to copy paste it here so that you guys have a fair understanding of what we're talking about. Just a minute, guys. Give me 1 minute. I have this technology which can allow this to happen. Hope it works. Okay, it's not really working the way I wanted. Okay, let's just discuss it. Forget about that. So, guys, let's look at the likely impact of the on China. So, let's look at advantages to both the countries. So, advantage for China, for example, and I'm just quickly going through the marking scheme to for you guys to know. Number one, more exports and more exports of capital equipment, rail equipment, cement and steel. So China के लिए सबसे बड़ा advantage क्या होगा? That they are able to sort of export more of their goods, and remember they have an overcapacity of these goods. So for them it's great because they will get a markets where they could basically sell their goods, which are otherwise they have too much capacity and too little demand out there. Number one. Number two, they have also an advantage that they are able to find cheaper routes to go to Africa and Middle East market via road, which otherwise was not possible because Pakistan is in the middle, and Arabian Sea access will be provided through this opportunity. Number three, guys, is an advantage that for China, there is also, as we said, that they have excess capacity, they could use that. And lastly, because these loans are also taken from Chinese banks and Chinese labor is used and Chinese sort of workers, so it's going to increase Chinese GDP and honestly make Pakistan become reliant on China. On the other hand, Pakistan can also find advantage because Pakistan is a poor country. So there is an inward investment in railways, in Gawada, in industrial zones, which will help China to Pakistan to get the investment which otherwise they will not be able to afford through their own money. And because this is investment, this automatically makes the PPC to shift to the right. The other time when Pakistan received money, you know how Pakistan has corruption. So this will basically not be the case in that because this money is completely directly coming towards road building. Although there will be corruption, of course. Without corruption, nothing happens. But I'm assuming that at least money will be invested in infrastructure. Will China's exchange rate improve? Well, it will result in Pakistan exchange rate to improve in the sense that more money will be coming to Pakistan. So that's good news. Will it result in China's exchange rate to improve? I don't think so. It's money coming into Pakistan rather than money going. It's basically China's exchange rate may go down if ever, but that's also not too bad for them because they want a weaker exchange rate anyways, right? But we won't discuss that because there's other points to discuss here as well. So investment also will happen in electricity supply, which will benefit the the consumers. So for all in all, Pakistan employment will go up, GDP will go up. Pakistan may find uh, more investment opportunities, which otherwise is not possible. The disadvantages, guys, is as we mentioned here, is that Pakistan is accumulating more debt, which could be a problem. Also, Pakistan may not have the ability to repay these loans very quickly, and Pakistan already has 25% of GDP in loan. So you talk about that. There's also the idea that in the future, when these sort of infrastructure is done, and Pakistan has completely sort of used up that money. If they are unable to make use of this infrastructure, then they will basically have a huge debt and may not have a way to make money. Okay. Lastly, some of the points that I mentioned in the examiner report was that there could also be pollution and other issues which can lead to global warming. Okay. Now, guys, this is a very general data response. As you can see, honestly, how much of economics did we use here? If I could ask you, and the answer is probably not too much. Isn't that true, guys? Am I right to say that like a lot of times people freak out because को data response नहीं practice हुई, but literally purchasing power parity is one concept, PPC actual economic growth was another concept, the standard of living, if you know a general definition, you could do that, and the last one is completely evaluation using your general knowledge. Got it? Does that make sense? So wasn't that tough? Make sense? Any questions about this? Yeah. So one suggestion and one advice in this case is that be very, very, hard working while you're doing the paper, which means that write whatever points that come to your mind, formulate them and write them properly. A lot of times we do half-hearted effort in exam. Our thinking mind, we just leave it aside and we just save it for later. Okay, I'm not going to do the rest of this paper because this is planned for also to be done in our class for what you call it, alt class, which is happening tomorrow. So I'm going to save some of these questions for tomorrow. I don't know whether I'm doing this paper or not, but I am doing papers. this is planned to be done, but I'm going to do something else right now. And let me quickly do that. If you have any questions, you can ask. Anyone, any question before we move on? Hans, Komal, Maya, Razia, Amna, anything? So good to see you guys, by the way. ऐसा लग रहा है बहुत अरसे बाद मुलाकात ही नहीं हुई आप लोगों से. आई होप यू गाइस आर फाइन एंड पढ़ाइयाँ हो रही हैं सारे सब्जेक्ट्स की. Okay, let's look at this one. This is May June 23. Variant is 1. Okay. Um, and I want to look at basically tension on peak Maya. Tensioning is routine. I think you guys are in a good shape. I think uh, don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Just notes P3 की क्लासेस जरूर रखेंगे रिवीजन की. डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट. बट ये कि वो जरूर करना बच्चों, अपना नोट जरूर पढ़ना है. ओके. और रिवाइज करते रहना है. Okay, let's do one more data response: competition, monopoly in the market. This is another one. And then for exchange, you're supposed to know the pros and cons of different exchange rate systems. Uh, Razia, notes may I have given an evaluation, right? Have I or not? In AS, when they were there was uh, evaluation of exchange rates given. Here they're focusing on more upon the knowledge of exchange rate. Hans की आवाज सुने वर्षा हो गई. Kamran, are you missing him? Okay, guys, I have to put this on YouTube as well, this video. So let's come back to this one. Okay, firms are sometimes thought of as machines. Inputs go in, products come out. However, it matters how powerful these firms are allowed to become. Competition law, the law that governs how firms compete in the market, how they may exert their power, and how and when they may join forces, has not prevented high concentration ratios in many industries. Global monopolies have been created in the name of free market capitalism. Mergers have been approved when monopolies tolerated under the assumption that they are efficient. Their ability to enable innovation is relied upon to justify these monopolies industry. Competition law is being used to protect a narrow set of public interest based on the idea of consumer welfare. This test applied by the law is whether any change will result in lower prices for consumers and thus is beneficial. This is regardless of how monopolized the resulting market structures become. The logic that focuses on consumer price is flawed. This can be seen in the effects of firms on the environment. Prices do not capture the negative externality of production, for which uh, neither the producer nor the consumer pays. Low consumer prices are not an adequate indicator for consumer welfare. The low price, low wage spiral keeps pushing for cheaper goods and services to increase the profitability of the firm. The result is that workers are paid less. Low prices cause unequal bargaining position between powerful employers and workers, and between powerful buyers and small independent suppliers. So they say that low price is not the only thing to look at, because uh, if you look at low prices also means low salaries, and low prices will then be bad for workers. Regulation has a role to play in protecting consumers from the worst abuses of the market power by firms. There needs, however, to be new competition law that promotes the free market rather than the desire of monopoly firms. It needs to consider the balance of power between the sector and the private enterprise. Okay, the article refers to concentration ratio. Explain what is meant by concentration ratio. Guys, remember concentration ratio was done in the. Moving on, can we zoom out once? I want to take a picture of this. Okay, got it. Take a picture of the thing. Okay, guys, the article refers to concentration ratio. Explain what is meant by concentration ratio and how it is calculated. So, guys, remember concentration ratio was an idea that we learned in oligopoly. We said this concentration ratio is a ratio that will tell us that, for example, for we find CR concentration ratio of X largest firms, for example, three largest firm, and we find out the percentage of market share in the hands of the largest X firms. So, for example, if I find out CR4, I am looking at concentration ratio, not Cristiano Ronaldo, but concentration ratio of top four sort of companies of the market. If CR4 is zero point 0.7 or zero point 0.8, this means that 80% of the market share is in the hands of the largest four companies. So what is meant by concentration ratio and how is it calculated? So it looks at percentage of market share in the hand of, let's say, top four companies and so on. Got it? Any questions about this? Guys, anyone? Any questions? Okay. Now, quickly moving on. Just a minute, guys. Let me quickly. Can you see the screen? Is it still visible? Sorry, it's gone. Okay, now it's here. Okay, so guys, CR4 would be basically the market share in the hand of the top four firms. Okay, then we move on to the next one. The next one say is explain with an example whether the article is correct in saying that neither the producer nor the consumer pays for negative externality. So what is the negative externality? Because it's for 4 marks. Again, we define what negative externality is. Negative externality is a third party cost for which neither the consumer nor the producer sort of pays, which is the first and the second party. And this cost is borne by the third party. For example, pollution, or for example, passive smoking by a consumer of cigarette. Okay. So from the examiner perspective, you need to give the definition of what is the negative externality. Then you need to talk about how it's cost borne by the third party who's not directly related with the consumption or the production of the good. And then we talk about an example uh, for the good. So you can talk about the production consumption negative externality or production negative externality. You can talk about this that both negative externality can be on the production side or consumption side. Okay. C says, apart from negative externality, describe two reasons why the article says increased concentration in an industry may not improve consumer welfare. Well, because there are many things that they mention here. If you look at one of the things that they say that uh, let me just quickly find all the things. Yeah, number one is this one, guys. That it results in low prices, uh, and low wages, and also cheaper products and services, which is making the profits to go up for the firm. And therefore, workers are not only paid less, but also they have a lower, weaker bargaining power. So you can talk about that one. That because of these large organizations, the workers are losing out. Although you may see low prices, but that also means low wages and therefore lower sort of welfare for the workers who are working in this one. Also, number two is that uh, they're also saying something about the profits, that the profits are also very high. Uh, so monopolies are basically not only uh, causing higher profits, but they're also not benefiting consumers because consumers, although they feel that they're getting a lower price, but that may not be the case. And they're also saying that competition law, the law that governs how firms compete in the market, how they may exert their power, and how and when they may join forces, has not prevented high concentration ratios. Global monopolies have been created in the name of free capitalism. Mergers have been approved and monopolies tolerated. Their ability to enable innovations relied upon to justify these monopolies. So, in other words, even the innovation power to innovate is basically in the hand of these monopoly industries. Uh, and competition law is trying to sort of protect narrow set of public interest based on the idea of consumer welfare. This is regardless of how monopolized the resulting market structures become. So monopolies are formed, and the laws are unable to stop them from being formed. Make sense? So you talk about that also. You talk about how consumers are not better off, workers are not better off, prices are low, and there is a spiral of low prices and low wages, which is hurting both the consumer in terms of lower quality of product and workers in terms of lower wages. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about this one? Okay. D says the article says that the monopolies are tolerated because they're efficient. Says with the help of a diagram whether the economic theory supports the idea that monopolies are efficient. So, guys, here we can draw that diagram that we draw that monopolies can be, and this is basically pros and cons of monopoly. Let's say if this is by demand and supply in the competitive market, price is P naught, quantity is Q naught. If this was a monopoly, I would draw my marginal revenue like this, and this is my marginal cost. MC is equal to MR would result in Q1 quantity, and the price will go to P, let's say 1, let's call it P naught. And as a result of that, if you look at area 1, 2, 3, 4, let's call this area 5 and 6, there is a higher price and a lower quantity, and therefore this becomes your deadweight loss of a monopoly. So monopoly will be not producing where price equals to marginal cost, which is this point A, where price equals to marginal cost. Therefore, it will be allocatively inefficient. It will also be productively inefficient because a monopoly doesn't produce at the lowest point of the ATC, because to be productively efficient, like perfect competition, produces at the lowest point of your uh, ATC. So it's both productively and allocatively efficient. So if you look at perfect competition diagram, that's what we draw, price equals to MC. but monopoly produces at a point where it may not necessarily be the lowest point of the ATC. So you talk about how monopoly could be productively and allocatively inefficient. Because the question is saying assess with the help of diagram whether economic theory supports the idea monopolies are efficient, you do want to sort of also talk about uh, some of the things that could go against this idea that in this diagram we assume there is no economies of scale, when in reality there could be monopoly being sometimes achieving economies of scale, and if that happens, it's not always true. The monopoly will offer higher prices and perfect competition. Secondly, guys, you can also talk about how monopoly could be dynamically efficient, and that could also be an argument that can be raised that um, monopolies could actually be doing R&D, innovation, and product development, which could be good. Otherwise, it may not be possible. Okay, so we could draw. The diagram like this. We could define productive, allocative, and also dynamic efficiency. We mentioned these points. We talk about how monopoly may not be productively and allocatively efficient, but how it could be dynamically efficient, and how, if it has economies of scale, then it could be better than perfect competition. May not be better from a traditional sense, but may be better from the sense that it can be beneficial for consumers in the long run. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions? Okay, so that's it for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to see you guys on the All platform. I think, if I'm not mistaken, um, you need to go to the All platform and sign in, and you will get to my class. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for coming. Have a good night. Uh, and good luck with everything. I'm going to put the recording of this class also on the YouTube channel if I get a chance. The Hafiz.